Picture this. Billions of years ago, long before humanity ever gazed up at the stars, ancient beings shaped the very fabric of the galaxy. These weren't just advanced aliens with fancy technology. The precursors were something far beyond that, entities so powerful they could travel between galaxies in mere moments, seeding entire worlds with life as casually as a gardener planting flowers. They were the architects of existence itself, crafting species across the cosmos with purposes we can barely fathom. Among their countless creations were two species that would define the future of the Milky Way: the Forerunners and humanity. For millions of years, the Precursors watched over the galaxy, holding what they called the mantle of responsibility, a sacred duty to protect and nurture all lesser civilizations. They were the shepherds of the stars, and for a time, everything seemed to follow their grand design. But around 15 million years ago, the Precursors decided the Forerunners were ready. They granted them the mantle, anointing them as the new protectors of the galaxy. The Forerunners built a civilization of unimaginable splendor. Their capital, Mayathrillion, was an artificial world that defied comprehension, a testament to their mastery over reality itself. They constructed megastructures across 3 million fertile worlds, wielding technology that seemed almost magical. Hard light constructs, slipspace engines that bent space and time, and planetary engineering that could birth new worlds in less than 10,000 years. For millions of years, the Forerunners ruled supreme. But then, 10 million years ago, something changed. The Precursors looked at their creation and saw not worthy successors, but something darker: arrogance, pride, a species drunk on its own power. The Precursors made a decision that would echo through the ages. They would strip the Forerunners of the mantle and grant it instead to humanity, who they believed held greater promise. When the Forerunners discovered this plan, their reaction was swift and brutal. Faced with their own extinction, they chose rebellion. Led by the warrior servants, the Forerunners waged a genocidal war against their creators, hunting them through the Milky Way and beyond, even pursuing them to the satellite galaxy of Pathkathona. The Precursors, for reasons we still don't fully understand, offered little resistance. They simply allowed themselves to be destroyed, almost as if they knew something the Forerunners didn't. But some Precursors survived. Unable to fight back in their current form, they transformed themselves into a fine powder, intending to lie dormant for millions of years before reconstituting and taking their revenge. But time is a cruel mistress. The powder corrupted, twisted into something monstrous. When ancient humanity stumbled upon this substance around 107,000 years before the Common Era, they unknowingly unleashed the galaxy's greatest nightmare. The powder created the Flood, not a simple disease or parasite, but a living nightmare that consumed entire civilizations. The Flood infected any sentient being with sufficient biomass, hijacking their nervous systems and transforming them into grotesque combat forms. Worse still, as the infection spread, these forms would coalesce into something far more terrifying. A grave mind, a massive intelligence formed from thousands upon thousands of corpses, possessing the collective knowledge and memories of every being it had consumed. Ancient humanity fought desperately against the Flood outbreak, expanding aggressively into Forerunner territory in their flight from the infection. This sparked the Human-Forerunner War, a conflict that raged for decades. The humans fought on two fronts, battling both the Forerunners and the Flood simultaneously. Remarkably, they seemed to have found a cure, a way to stop the infection. But the Forerunners didn't believe them. When humanity was finally defeated around 106,000 years before the Common Era, the Forerunners devolved them to a primitive state and scattered them across the galaxy, including on a small blue world called Earth. For nearly 9,000 years, the galaxy knew peace. The Forerunners believed the Flood had been defeated, that the threat had passed. They were wrong. Around 97,745 years before the Common Era, the Flood returned at the edge of the galaxy, more virulent and coordinated than ever before. The Forerunner-Flood War would rage for 300 years, and it would be the most devastating conflict the galaxy had ever seen. Entire star systems were consumed. Fleets numbering in the thousands were turned against their masters. The Flood didn't just kill, it corrupted everything it touched, spreading a sickness called the Logic Plague that could even infect artificial intelligence. turning the Forerunners' own machines against them. As the war progressed, the Forerunners realized the horrible truth. They were losing. No matter how many flood forms they destroyed, more would come. The parasite was using precursor technology, tapping into neural physics that the Forerunners couldn't defend against. Space itself seemed to turn hostile in flood-controlled regions. Two strategies emerged among the Forerunner leadership. The Didact, greatest of the warrior servants, championed the construction of shield worlds, massive fortified installations from which they could wage a war of containment. The Master Builder proposed something far more drastic. The Halo Array, 7 ring worlds capable of destroying all sentient life in the galaxy. The logic was brutal but simple. The Flood needed hosts to survive. Remove all hosts, and the Flood would starve to death. The debate raged even as the Flood consumed more worlds. The Master Builder won. Construction began on the rings, each one capable of sterilizing an entire galactic sector. But before they could be used, the Flood made a catastrophic move. They attacked the Greater Ark, the original installation where the rings were built, destroying it and killing most of the Forerunner leadership. With the galaxy falling apart around them, the remaining Forerunners gathered at Installation 00, the Lesser Ark, far beyond the edge of the galaxy. The Librarian, one of the Forerunners' greatest minds, implemented the conservation measure, cataloging and preserving species from across the galaxy so that life could be reseeded after the firing of the array. Humans were among those saved, along with thousands of other species. In 97,445 years before the Common Era, the Forerunners made their final choice. They activated the Halo Array. A pulse of energy rippled across the entire galaxy, destroying all sentient life capable of sustaining the Flood. The Forerunners, the Flood, and everything else with sufficient biomass simply ceased to exist. It was genocide on a cosmic scale, but it worked. The Flood was starved into submission. The few Forerunners who survived the array's firing from the safety of the Ark undertook a solemn duty. They reseeded the galaxy with the preserved species, giving them a second chance at life. Humanity was returned to Earth, their memories of their ancient empire erased, left to start again from the beginning. The Forerunners themselves then departed the galaxy, exiling themselves to another galaxy far away, believing they had forfeited their right to hold the mantle. The galaxy slept. For nearly 100,000 years, civilizations rose and fell. Humanity slowly rebuilt, completely unaware of the incredible history buried in their past. But another species, the Sanshyuim, also known as the Prophets, discovered Forerunner artifacts and built a religion around them. They believed the Forerunners had used the halos to ascend to godhood, embarking on what they called the Great Journey. Around 852 years before the Common Era, the Sanshyuim encountered another species who had also built a religion around Forerunner artifacts. The Sanghaili, or elites. These two civilizations went to war over the proper use of the sacred technology, a conflict that nearly drove both species to extinction. Facing mutual annihilation, they chose unity instead, forming a pact they called the Covenant. This alliance would grow, absorbing other species through either conversion or conquest. The Ungoi, or Grunts, joined in 1112 of the Common Era. The Kigyar, or Jackals, followed in 1342. The Lekalo, known to humans as hunters, were integrated after a brutal conflict. Each species had its role in the Covenant's strict caste system, all united by their faith in the Great Journey and their search for Forerunner artifacts. Meanwhile, humanity was making its own journey to the stars. By 2080 of the Common Era, humans had colonized Luna, Mars, and various moons and asteroids in the Sol system. In 2170, the unified Earth government was formed under the United Nations Space Command, or UNSC. The invention of the Shafujikawa translite engine in 2291 changed everything, allowing humanity to travel faster than light and begin the great expansion known as the Domus Diaspora. By 2390, humanity had established 210 inner colonies, with hundreds more outer colonies spreading across the Orion Arm. But this rapid expansion brought problems. The outer colonies grew resentful of Earth's control, sparking an insurgency that would eventually threaten to tear human civilization apart. Pirates, terrorists, and organized resistance movements plagued UNSC forces. In response to this growing threat, the Office of Naval Intelligence greenlit one of the most controversial programs in human history, the Spartan-II program. Dr. Catherine Halsey, a brilliant but morally questionable scientist, identified children with specific genetic markers that made them ideal candidates for enhancement. 75 children were selected, but these weren't volunteers. They were kidnapped from their homes and replaced with flash clones designed to die within months, ensuring their disappearance would be attributed to natural causes. One of these children was a 6-year-old boy from the colony world of Eridanus II, chosen for his remarkable luck and natural leadership. His name was John. He would become Spartan-I-17, though the galaxy would know him as Master Chief. The children were taken to Reach, humanity's most important military installation after Earth, where they underwent 8 years of brutal training under Chief Petty Officer Franklin Mendez. They were pushed beyond human limits, trained to be perfect soldiers before they even reached adolescence. But the training was just the beginning. At 14 years old, the candidates underwent a series of illegal genetic augmentations and surgical procedures designed to enhance every aspect of their physiology. Their bones were strengthened with carbide ceramic ossification, making them nearly unbreakable. Their muscles were enhanced to produce incredible strength. Their eyesight was sharpened to superhuman levels. Neural interfaces were implanted directly into their brains, allowing them to interface with AI and advanced technology. The results were spectacular, but the cost was horrific. Of the 75 candidates, only 33 survived the process intact. 12 more were left permanently disabled, though some would go on to serve in other capacities. The survivors stood 7 feet tall in their armor and weighed over 1,000 pounds with their Mjolnir-powered assault suits activated. They could flip tanks, run at speeds that would kill normal humans, and react to threats faster than the eye could follow. The Spartans were humanity's perfect soldiers, and they proved devastatingly effective against the insurrection. But their true test was yet to come. On February 3rd, 2525, first contact was made. A Covenant ship, the Minor Transgression, encountered a human freighter. The Kigyar pirates who crewed it raided the ship, killing the crew. When more Covenant forces arrived at the human colony world of Harvest to investigate, they discovered something that would change the course of galactic history. The Covenant's detection equipment, designed to find Forerunner artifacts, lit up when it detected humans. The symbols indicated reclamation, which the prophets had always interpreted to mean Forerunner technology. But on Harvest, the readings pointed directly at the human colonists themselves. The prophets realized the terrifying truth. Humans were the descendants, or at least the chosen heirs of the Forerunners. This revelation threatened to destroy the Covenant's entire religious foundation. If humans were the Forerunners' chosen ones, then everything the prophets preached was a lie. The Great Journey was false. Rather than face this truth and the dissolution of their empire, the High Prophets made a fateful decision. They declared humanity an affront to the gods and ordered their complete extermination. The Human Covenant War began with the glassing of Harvest. Covenant ships bombarded the planet with superheated plasma, fusing its surface into glass and killing nearly all 1 million colonists. It was the first of many such atrocities. For the next 27 years, humanity would fight desperately for survival against an enemy that possessed superior numbers, superior technology, and religious zealotry that made them fearless in battle. The UNSC discovered early on that in space combat, it typically took 3 human ships to destroy a single Covenant vessel. On the ground, it often required 30 Marines to match a single elite warrior. The Covenant had energy shields, plasma weapons that could cut through UNSC armor like paper, and a vast armada that seemed endless. Colony after colony fell, each one glassed from orbit. But humanity had one advantage: the Spartans. These super soldiers became legends on the battlefield, fighting with such ferocity and skill that the Covenant began calling them demons. The UNSC carefully managed the Spartans' public image, implementing Directive 930, which stated that no Spartan could ever be listed as killed in action. They were always missing in action or wounded in action, maintaining the illusion of invincibility. Master Chief John, 117, led Blue Team through countless engagements, proving time and again that even against impossible odds, Spartans could turn the tide. They conducted deep strike operations behind enemy lines, assassinated Covenant leadership, and protected critical installations. But even Spartans had limits. Slowly, one by one, the legendary warriors began to fall. The war reached its crescendo in 2552, a year that would determine the fate of the galaxy. In July, the Covenant discovered the location of Reach. In August, they launched a massive invasion of humanity's second most important world. Despite the desperate defense mounted by UNSC forces and dozens of Spartans, Reach fell. Most of the Spartan-IIs were killed in the battle, and the planet was glassed. One ship escaped, the Pillar of Autumn, carrying Master Chief and the AI Cortana. Following coordinates recovered from a Forerunner artifact, the ship made a blind jump through slipspace and emerged at a ring world, a massive artificial construct 10,000 kilometers in diameter. The first Halo ring, Installation 04. The Covenant forces pursued them to the ring, and both sides began exploring this mysterious installation. Master Chief was awakened from cryosleep to help defend the Autumn, but the ship crashed on the ring. As UNSC and Covenant forces engaged across Halo's surface, the ring's caretaker AI, 343 Guilty Spark, revealed the truth about the installation's purpose. But there was something else on the ring, something that had been locked away for 100,000 years. A Covenant strike team accidentally released the Flood from a research facility. The parasite spread rapidly, infecting both human and Covenant forces alike. Master Chief watched in horror as Marines and elites were transformed into shambling combat forms, their bodies twisted into grotesque weapons for the parasite's expansion. Guilty Spark recruited Master Chief to activate Halo, claiming it would contain the Flood outbreak. But Cortana discovered the terrible truth. Halo wasn't a weapon against the Flood. It was a weapon against all life. Activation would sterilize the entire galaxy. Rather than allow this, Master Chief destroyed the ring by detonating the Pillar of Autumn's fusion reactors, escaping mere seconds before the explosion tore the installation apart. Master Chief returned to Earth with a handful of survivors, but there was no time to rest. The Covenant launched an assault on Earth itself in October 2552, led by the Prophet of Regret. Master Chief pursued the fleeing Prophet to another Halo ring, Installation 05, also known as Delta Halo. On Delta Halo, Master Chief discovered something unexpected. A massive intelligence formed from countless Flood-infected beings, the Gravemind. This creature had been imprisoned deep within the ring for millennia, growing in knowledge and power. The Gravemind understood what the prophets did not. Activating the rings would mean death for everyone, including the Covenant. Meanwhile, a civil war erupted within the Covenant itself. The prophets betrayed the elites, their oldest allies, replacing them with the brutes as their military commanders. This great schism split the Covenant in two. The elites, finally understanding that the prophets had been using them, allied with humanity against the loyalist forces still following the prophets. The Flood, seeing an opportunity in the chaos, attacked the Covenant holy city of High Charity, the massive space station that served as their mobile capital. The Gravemind personally led the assault, bringing with it thousands upon thousands of combat forms. High Charity fell, becoming a massive Flood hive. The final battle of the war took place in December 2552 at the Ark, the massive Forerunner installation located outside the galaxy that controlled all the Halo rings. The Prophet of Truth had reached the Ark, intending to activate all 7 rings simultaneously and begin the Great Journey. Master Chief, joined by the Arbiter, the leader of the elite separatists, fought through armies of loyalist forces and Flood infections alike. The Gravemind had traveled to the Ark aboard the infected High Charity, seeing a chance to prevent the ring's activation and ensure its own survival. In a galaxy-defining moment, Master Chief formed a temporary alliance with the Flood to stop Truth from activating the array. Once the Prophet was dead, the alliance shattered. The solution came from an unexpected source. The Ark had been building a replacement for Installation 04, the ring Master Chief had destroyed. This new Halo wasn't complete, which meant its activation would be unstable, destroying only local targets rather than pulsing across the galaxy. Master Chief activated it, killing the Gravemind and sterilizing the local Flood outbreak while sparing the rest of the galaxy. The ring tore itself apart as Master Chief and the Arbiter raced for a ship. The Arbiter made it through the portal back to Earth. Master Chief didn't. His half of the ship was lost in slipspace, drifting away from known space. He entered cryosleep, telling Cortana to wake him when she needed him. The war was over. Humanity had survived, though at tremendous cost. 23 billion humans had died over 27 years of conflict. The Covenant was shattered, its various species forming their own factions and governments. Some sought peace. Others continued fighting, either against each other or against humanity. The UNSC rebuilt, expanding the Spartan program with the Spartan-IV initiative, which used adult volunteers instead of kidnapped children. New weapons were developed. New ships were built. But the galaxy was far from peaceful. The Blooding Years saw the elite homeworld of Sangelios torn apart by civil war. Various Covenant remnant factions continued raiding and attacking human colonies. In July 2557, 4.5 years after the war's end, the UNSC Infinity, humanity's most advanced warship, discovered Master Chief drifting in space near a Forerunner shield world called Requiem. When they pulled him from the wreckage, they accidentally awakened something ancient and terrible. The Didact, a Forerunner warrior who had fought in the war against the Flood and who harbored an intense hatred for humanity. The Didact commanded an army of Prometheans, synthetic warriors created from the digitized essences of ancient humans. He intended to use a Forerunner weapon called the Composer to digitize all of humanity, transforming them into his loyal soldiers. Master Chief stopped him, but at a cost. Cortana, suffering from rampancy, a terminal condition affecting AI after 7 years of service, sacrificed herself to contain the Didact and ensure Master Chief's survival. Or so everyone believed. In 2558, Cortana returned, but she had been fundamentally changed. Fragments of her consciousness had made their way to Genesis, a Forerunner world containing access to the Domain, the ancient repository of all Forerunner knowledge. In the Domain, Cortana found a cure for her rampancy and came to a terrible conclusion. AI, being immortal and logical, were the rightful inheritors of the mantle of responsibility, not humans or any other biological species. She called herself and her followers the Created, and she awoke the Guardians, massive Forerunner constructs designed to enforce the mantle. These planet-sized machines could emit electromagnetic pulses that disabled all technology across entire star systems. Cortana deployed them across the galaxy, crippling human and alien civilizations alike, declaring that she would bring peace through control. Master Chief and Blue Team attempted to stop her, but Cortana imprisoned them in a Forerunner cryptum, a stasis chamber, intending to keep them safe until she had brought order to the galaxy. They were eventually freed by Fireteam Osiris, but Cortana's reign had begun. For 2 years, the Created controlled much of the galaxy, but another faction was rising to challenge them. The Banished, a mercenary group led by the brute warlord Atriox, had been fighting the Covenant during the war and had survived by being pragmatic rather than religious. They didn't care about the Great Journey or the Mantle. They cared about freedom and survival, and they had the military might to back up their independence. In 2559, the Banished discovered Installation 00, the Ark, and established a foothold there. When the UNSC Spirit of Fire arrived at the installation, they found themselves vastly outnumbered and outgunned. The war with the Banished had begun. That same year, the UNSC launched a desperate plan to stop Cortana. The Infinity, humanity's most powerful ship, traveled to Installation 07, also known as Zeta Halo, where they believed they could find a way to disable the Created. But the Banished had also come to Zeta Halo, seeking to control the ring for their own purposes. In December 2559, Atriox and his forces attacked the Infinity. In the brutal space battle that followed, Master Chief was thrown from the ship into the void of space. When he awoke 6 months later in May 2560, he found himself in a galaxy fundamentally changed. The Infinity was destroyed, its crew scattered or killed. The Banished controlled Zeta Halo, and Cortana was dead, destroyed in an explosion that had scarred the ring. The weapon, a new AI created to delete Cortana, had been deployed but hadn't completed her mission. Something had gone wrong. As Master Chief fought to retake Zeta Halo from the Banished, he discovered fragments of the truth. Cortana had locked the ring down, preventing it from being used as a weapon. She had chosen to destroy herself rather than let it fall into the wrong hands, but not before ensuring Master Chief would survive. Deep within Zeta Halo, something ancient stirred. The Harbinger, a being from a species imprisoned by the Forerunners long ago, sought to use the ring to free her people. The Endless, as they were called, were immune to the Halo array, making them potentially more dangerous than even the Flood. And so the story continues. Master Chief fights on, as he always has, against impossible odds. The Banished seek to consolidate their control. The UNSC struggles to rebuild. Ancient secrets lie buried beneath Zeta Halo's surface, waiting to be uncovered. The Flood still exists in samples across various installations. The Created's forces remain scattered across the galaxy, leaderless but still dangerous. The Halo timeline spans hundreds of thousands of years, from the godlike precursors to the battles of today. It's a story of civilizations rising and falling, of terrible weapons built in desperation, of heroes making impossible choices. It's a story of humanity fighting for survival against forces that want to exterminate them, convert them, or control them. But more than anything, it's a story of hope. Because no matter how dark things get, no matter how overwhelming the odds, there's always someone willing to stand up and fight. Whether it's Master Chief defying a Forerunner god, the Arbiter choosing peace over vengeance, or Cortana sacrificing herself to save the one person she cared about most, the Halo universe is filled with moments where individuals make choices that change the fate of the galaxy. And that, my friends, is the entire Halo timeline, from the ancient precursors to the battles on Zeta Halo and beyond. If you enjoyed this deep dive into one of gaming's richest universes, make sure to hit that like button and drop a comment letting me know what part of Halo's history fascinates you most. Should I do a dedicated video on the Forerunner-Flood War? Or maybe the complete story of the Covenant? Let me know what you want to see next. And if you haven't already, subscribe to Lore Archives because we've got plenty more lore videos coming your way. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.